Hello, welcome to Subjective Insights. Now I'll just do a bit of self-help talking. Talk about stuff that's helped this body thing. When I was a lot more anxious and a lot less confident, I wouldn't say that I'm super confident and super unanxious now, but I've noticed a path to which it's all just going. I found that I would berate myself for how I spoke, like if I stuttered, if I jumbled up my words, if I used slang or filler words like and like. And I would berate myself, and it made me go red in the face when I made one of those verbal faux pas. But then when I got into meditation and mindfulness and started to watch things, I would watch other people speak. I mean, before then, of course, I'd heard them speak, but I was so fixated upon me and how I was being perceived that I didn't bother perceiving anybody else. And so when I started to actually observe other people and how they spoke and acted, I realised that they were all committing these exact same faux pas, and yet they got along perfectly fine, and I didn't disesteem them. I didn't look down upon them for how they spoke. And that kind of made me ease up upon myself. So advice number one, if you got problems like that, just look at other people, mate. I think everybody to varying degrees has those kind of anxious, embarrassing kind of problems. Well, or not so much anxious and embarrassing problems, but problems of anxiety and embarrassment. And it all comes from us applying this standard to ourselves that is just too strict, far too strict. It's often a much stricter standard than the one that we apply to other people when we're judging them and looking at them. And this standard that we judge ourselves with, that when we are in breach of, makes us go red in the face and shaky in the knees, and more stuttering, gives us clamorous skin. This standard, it's like, where did I even get it from? I don't remember ever kind of consciously seeking one out, or ever coming to really know one consciously. It seems to be a totally subconscious kind of implicit process by which this standard is brainwashed into the nut. You can see a lot of interpretations of what enlightenment means, especially Alan Watts, in that it's that exact thing that enlightenment is trying to free you from, or that enlightenment is the freedom from. And then it's a social conditioning in a sense, that kind of nervous double take on ourselves that we're constantly doing, where we would it's like we watch ourselves do something and we'd like to edit what we just did, but we can't. And so we just kind of sit in this mire of shame about what's happened, which could just be as simple as how did that happen? Or using a different word in place of another one, or falling over. Yeah, this standard, I think we must have breathed it in through the books that we read, through the TV that we watch, through the people that we speak to. It's never explicitly stated. I mean, that's much later in the process, both in terms of how the child is kind of instilled with these values, and in terms of how culture in the world as a whole has produced these values. The explicit statement of the value comes right at the end. So these value statements, they aren't the explicit things that parents say, like don't swear and you've got to do chores and all that kind of stuff. It's more in the kind of implicit urge and command to be strong, to appear in a certain way. And you would see this when you're looking at your parents act out in society, and you would notice when they got embarrassed, when they didn't get embarrassed, and that would be the way that these standards are transmitted from one generation to the other. I mean, of course, they do say you've got to be strong in that as well, but the statement is weak. It's the behaviour that manifests the statement, that pushes the statement out of itself, which has the strength. One of the ways that it could be transmitted is a parent is taking their child shopping and the child acts in a way that makes the parent feel embarrassed, and then the parent berates the child because of that. That's conditioning the child to perceive spontaneous exhibitions of emotion as negative, and not to do them, to be ashamed if they show them. Anyway, goodbye.